imminently. Are we there yet?
Hey, we are live. So we're live.
Yes,
I hope you didn't hear swearing.
No, didn't get you swearing, and luckily it got you with all your clothes on as well, so that was good as well.
Yeah.
How are you, buddy? How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yeah. Oh, and your link on Facebook, Twitter has worked this week. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. How is everybody else out there this week? This beautiful week. It's lovely here. I hope it's nice where you are.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. It was a bit rubbish this morning earlier. When I say rubbish, we're getting spoilt now because it was still pretty okay. But yeah, I went down to Newquay to see Mother, and bless her, she's getting a little bit older and things. But that was absolutely stunning. That was all around Newquay and Porth and stuff like that. So yeah, that was good to see my sister and my mum.
Very nice.
So yeah, it was all visitors, but it's all weird. You completely separate off and distancing, I think, because she's in the high bracket, the danger bracket. And so, it's weird. Luckily, it's been nice weather, so we can just sit outside and have a chat, have a cup of tea, and, then we go for a walk on the island. My sister and I, 2 meters apart, walk all the way to the island and back again. It's lovely. Works out all right,
Very nice.
So, we've got, just to let people know, we've got a little bit... Hey, mate?
I was just going to say, is there anybody who's watching from Facebook? Because I can't see the link on Facebook. Anybody out there?
Oh dear.
Well, look, we got some.
You are definitely linked.
Scotty's there.
You're definitely linked on Facebook, mate.
Yeah, it might just not.
It should be.
Yeah.
You've been a busy lad.
Always.
You're just sorting out the thing. Well, just to let you know, Scotty's joined us, so that's pretty good.
I saw Gemma
just to let you know, we've got cool. It's a bit of a delay. I did check the speed of the Wi-Fi. It went down from 80 down to 30, which is still fast. But why does Wi-Fi just shut down by half the amount? It's just rubbish. But Sue says hi from Devon. Been following you on Twitter as soul searching for a long time. Love to Finn and you, Dave. Have you got Finn with you today, Dave?
Yeah, of course. There he is. Schmoozing next to his dad. I should just leave it on that screen for the whole hour, really, shouldn't I? That would just...
you should, mate.
Make everybody happy.
That would be fine. We've got, later today, we are waiting nervously because, as you're probably well aware, we've got Nick Knowles joining us today. And looking forward to seeing him. We did to check with some techie stuff, and it seems to be working. Techie stuff, just so make sure that it's not going to be too juddery and things. But it was working fine. But he hasn't joined us yet. He's not waiting in our green room. The last one trashed it. I think Scotty trashed our green room. He got drunk, started throwing bottles of gin around and stuff. But so it's an electronic room that they can hear us and see us, but then we sort of bring them in. So it's quite good. But Dave, down to you, mate. What's your week? Have you been working? Have you been training? Because you did a load of training recently. Have you been out nicking criminals again?
That's it. Yeah, no. I had about a month of training where I was doing I was conducting the training, which was a little bit boring for my two. But I'm quite selfish. I try and make sure that they get some training too. Otherwise, it's a bit rubbish for them. But so no, yeah, we've been on. We're halfway through our set of 4. So I've got my first night tonight, and then my second night tomorrow night. So I should be having a nap after this. Hence why I'm drinking water and not coffee today.
Okay.
So days were quite busy yesterday. Some quite serious assaults, which I think seems to be the bit of a trend at the moment, isn't it, with knife crime and stuff on the up. There's some serious assaults.
There's been some horrendous stuff there, isn't it? So it's just devastating to hear when we get these things coming up, because each one of those, it's a statistic, but it's actually a family behind it. And if you've witnessed just the absolute destruction it causes to family and friends and things, it's just absolutely awful. So We often hear, don't we, about statistics, they're 10% up, but that's human beings, their lives. They've been born, they've gone through school, they've made friends, their parents are looking forward to them, developing and whatever, and having relationships, and they're just stabbed at teenagers. It's just an utter waste. But there we go. The fight goes on.
In London.
Yeah, 7 murders in 7 days. That's not a nice record to have, is it?
Wow.
Raina Victor says, hi from Newquay, Jono. Nice to see you, Jono, mate. Thank you. He's the one-man band who does an awful lot of social media in Newquay and gets all the community stuff going, so good for him. Although lots of love for Finn and hugs and kisses. None for you and me, Dave.
You're getting nagged for some Arthur time. Is Arthur around, or is he busy?
Yeah. He's actually. Do I dare do this? There we go.
Don't unplug anything.
See him on his bed there.
Arthur, come and say hello to your fan.
Arthur. Hey. Come here. What's going on? Come on. Come here, babe. Come here. There we are. Good boy. Yeah. So here we got. I go down to see my mum in Newquay. I try to get down there every couple of weeks, mate. And
does he go?
He goes with me, and basically, he's the main man. So, hello, my mum's probably watching today, actually. So, there's Arthur to you. It's pretty cool on that one. It's good. He's usually elusive. My wife said, "Oh yeah, I usually get him out of the way so he doesn't disturb you and bark when there's a." Oh no! Bring him in.
The doggy.
But it's just a miniature version of Finn.
Yeah, exact replica. 1/43 scale.
But no. The other thing I've managed to do is when I did that book thing. So I haven't plugged this and I haven't hid it yet. When I did this book thing, people said, have you got an audio version? And I don't know but I've just done my own audio version, which means getting a special mic and doing it. The software, just to go through and take all the little clicks and dicks and mistakes out, is taken for absolutely ever. But anyway, it's done. So it's gone off to Amazon and it's past their computers. Which is pretty impressive. And then, so hopefully that should be in about 30 days' time if anyone's interested. That's pretty good. That means if you haven't had too much of me talking in your ear, then that's it. We still haven't got Nick with us. So
I'll do the news, Harry. You go and ring Nick and find out where he is.
You do that, mate.
Otherwise it'll be just you and me talking for an hour. Right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can fill that.
So just a few bits of news. I did mention that knife crime sadly does appear to be on the way up. I think we always knew it was going to be an interesting and a tricky summer, and I think that seems to be bearing itself out, which is a bit sad and a bit of a shame. I would imagine with everything that's going on, that the number of stop searches is down. So does that relate to the number of knife crime being up? I don't know. It's too early to tell. And there's lots of experts out there that would shoot me down in flames if I even tried to say that one was connected to the other. We saw some public order in Hackney last night, and I know we've seen lots of public order. The only reason I'm mentioning it is that there were 2 police dogs, Gemma and Callie, I think the other one was. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. Just 2 dogs. For all that disorder, there were just 2 dogs there. So I'm not quite sure what that was about. But by the look of the footage that I've seen, the 2 dogs were incredibly effective. So well done to those, and obviously all the humans that were there. Lovely bit of news is obviously Arise. I think I get this the right way around. Arise Captain Sir Tom Moore. Yesterday was obviously Sir Tom.
Yeah.
Captain Sir Tom. I think that's the way round you have to put it. Getting his knighthood from the Queen, and it was lovely that they were pressing him for what the Queen's message was, and he wouldn't say. So I thought that was must have been lovely for him to meet his Queen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! It was a beautiful photograph, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And well, video as well. I saw the thing, and yeah. Windsor, been there a few times. You know,
I've ever been
as a servant, basically, as protection. Oh, do you know it's the most perfect building? You look at a castle and whatever, and you just think it's so old. And you know, even if you go around to your National Trust stuff, there's bits that need doing. You think, well, they'll be doing that next year. This thing is absolutely. There's not one bit of pointing that's out. There's not one thing that is gone. It's you know. So the good news is we have got Nick wandering around in the green room. So hopefully we'll just leave it a bit, just make sure he's just sorting a few things out. And so that's really good. But yeah, and I remember actually, so I don't think I'm giving too much away, when the King of Bahrain, I think he's just getting a cup of tea actually, because I've thank you to Ian from Wise. You know who you are, Ian, if you're on there. He gave me this. My old thing, and the DC was very much signified Devon and Cornwall Police, so I could get into an awful lot of trouble and not involve them. I changed it, and I knew it was going to get rid of my blue tick. And Scotty Bateman has already, I see on listed here, saying, how do you feel being the only one without a blue tick? So Dave, because you got a blue tick for Twitter, didn't you, mate?
I did, yes. Apparently, I don't know how public this is, but apparently they're going to start doing blue ticks again. I spoke to them obviously to get our blue tick. We applied for our blue tick, frustratingly, the very same week that they stopped doing them. This is years ago, because far right groups, far left groups were getting blue ticks when they probably shouldn't have, or definitely shouldn't have had them. So it's taken a while to come, but we finally got. No, not we. Sorry, Finn has finally got his blue tick. As far as I'm aware, the first police dog to get a blue tick. So well done, Finn. Yeah, I know, Scott.
Hey, but to non-Twitter people, that means you're verified. It means you're the genuine person. You're not one of the other loads of accounts take your name and you know, can cause issues with it, really. But it also, unofficially, it does open a few doors. If you're talking to politicians or something and they see you've got a blue tick, they do tend to give you a bit of a second look, that's the only thing I found it was really quite useful for. But no, so that's we are with that. So I've got I understand. Go on, mate.
I was going to say, do you want me to show you what I'm reading at the moment? You're not going to believe me.
I don't know. Are you allowed to? Is it recordable on daytime TV?
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly give Theo another plug, because that's an incredible book by an incredible guy and about an incredible dog. But at the moment, you know what I'm like about my my dog training books and my dog training and my research and stuff like that. So don't ask. I asked for this from Gemma, and she bought it. Death, Decomposition, and Detector Dogs. Now, how's that for a title? That's what I'm reading.
That is amazing, but that's a fascinating subject, isn't it?
Oh, it is incredible.
That's a fascinating subject.
I mean, I won't show you the pictures because they're pretty gory, but it is fascinating stuff, and it's written by a very clever lady. But it all fits into my dog research and dog training research and stuff like that. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. I bet none of you can beat that for a title. So, and another bit of news.
Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive.
Because Scotty's there. The BA have retired all their jumbo jets, haven't they? Which is very sad.
BA have retired all their jumbo jets.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Every single one. Very sad.
Yeah, I know, because my wife worked for Flybe as cabin crew, and of course, a couple of pilots had sort of probably seen some issues coming or just joined BA, and so they thought they've escaped Flybe, and then of course they've hit the problems with BA. So let's hope it just starts recovering very quickly. That's all we can do at the moment. But I see we have got Nick with us, and he's in the green room. I see he's on the sparkling water and Earl Grey tea. He's missed the gin and stuff in the corner, so that's fine. Look, Nick Knowles, he's with us. What an absolute pleasure having him with us. He was actually born as Nicholas Simon Augustine Knowles. There's a story with Augustine, I imagine. He left school at 16. He did labouring on building sites, which obviously came in useful later on, I imagine. He was a runner for TV initially, and then a reporter for TV Southeast. He did something called Mission Africa, which was notice he did quite a lot with, and that was constructing a Kenyan game reserve, I believe. Yeah. And then, of course, we all know him and love him for his game shows: Who Dares Wins, Break the Safe, 5-Star Family Reunion, and he wrote a film script. He was a part writer of a film script called The Golden Years, and of course, infamous Every Kind of People, his album that is out. He was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and so were his Red Budgie Smugglers. And there's a story with them as well. So we need to get that out. And of course, the beloved DIY SOS, where I was fortunate enough to go and meet him at Weston-super-Mare. And I assumed a lot and was completely wrong. And that shows you about how people can work together and move across to many businesses, I think, to get things done quickly. And of course, Home is Where the Art Is as well, which she's done lately. Well, I think it's just lovely. It's that same sort of thing for me. It's like the same sort of feeling as the Repair Shop, which is Repair Shop. Is that the one? Yeah. But anyway, it's that same sort of feeling. I just love it. Relaxing TV. So to actually not to delay anymore, because you don't want to hear me all the time. Here is Nick Knowles. Thank you so much for joining us. And nothing is happening when I touch the button. Oh, right. Okay. Is he there? Good. We do have a slightly slow line.
Can you hear me, Mother?
Is he with us yet? No? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear him.
He should be with us.
I am with you.
Yes, I can hear you. And I think your picture will come up very shortly. There we go. Hey!
There you go.
Nick, how are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. If only we had time for an interview after the introduction.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Nick. Good night.
Thank you very much. Good night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a song.
Yay!
No, I'm not. There is actually a restraining order on me ever singing in public.
A restraining order.
Yeah, definitely. It's for people's own safety and mental well-being. I'm not allowed to sing in public anymore. So I'm going to cover some of the subjects. I'm going to start by covering some of the subjects you've already done. Okay, jumbo jets. Very sad because I remember the jumbo jet coming in. I'm of an age where I can remember the first jumbo jet.
Oh, blimey.
And me going, wow, look at that! Look at the size of that. And I went to my brother's fiance's father worked at Heathrow, so got us up to the viewing platform to have a look in those days, which was a big thing for kids in those days. And it's something I've actually taken my kids to see since. Seeing my first jumbo jet and thinking, that's unbelievable. The size of the flipping thing is. Yeah. Here's a little fact for you as well. Did you know the first manned flight by the Wright brothers didn't go as high or travel as far as the length and height of a jumbo jet sitting on the deck before it traveled?
Blimey.
There you go.
Wow. We've actually had a request, Nick. We've had a request from Scotty, the ex-jumbo jet pilot.
No.
Thinking about converting a jumbo jet into a STEM museum. And does Nick think it would fit into DIY SOS? Converting a jumbo jet into a museum?
I think it's a very good idea. There is an actual fact just down the road from me in Gloucester. There is an aerodrome there where there is an old airliner that's been sort of, you can go and sit in the cockpit and things, but no stuff on board. I think it'd make a great museum. Actually, I'm surprised there's not more done of that kind of thing. And could we help? Probably not at the moment, because to be honest, we're not filming at the moment. Not likely to be filming until September earliest, and we've got a backlog of people that we've promised we'll build for this year, which we're having to push on to later into next year. So it's going to be a while before we can start taking new commissions and looking at new possibilities. So it's a very good idea. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
There's all been a bit chaos for you and for everybody else. So yeah, there's no production going on at the moment.
Yeah, but it's been good for me. I mean, the weird thing about my job,
because in a way,
it's like a jet-driven merry-go-round. So and you never get off, because if you do, you'll never get back on again. So actually having 3 months enforced sit down and take it easy has been really good, because I've been able to spend more time with my 6-year-old boy. I've been able to write a second movie, which I've been meaning to do for a long time.
Wow.
And do lots of other bits as well. And of course, catch up on my important reading. It's a very, very handy little book. The truth is, I'm actually reading this.
Good. Yeah.
And that is a new one, which is this.
That's very good, that book.
Yay, that's a good one.
And actually, John Nichols is a guy that I speak to a lot, and not only because he's RAF, my dad was RAF.
Love it.
He's also a huge supporter of the police, and so we get together quite a lot and talk about what we might be able to do to try and, help the profile. So he's a huge police supporter and a mate of mine.
Yeah, John lives just up the road from me, and John was John was a fantastic help. Harry, you sound like you're on a bit of a time delay. You're a couple of seconds behind us. He's been help to me when he's in Devon. He helped me when all of this started and writing my book and stuff like that. So he is a fantastic police supporter. I think he's helped Hearts with some police awards recently. So your sort of support and love of the police and the armed forces, where does that come from, Nick?
Well, my dad was in the RAF. He sort of joined as ground crew in the sort of fairly early on in the war, and then when he was 19, when they were running out of pilots, he became a pilot, trained in what was then Rhodesia, is now Zimbabwe, and ended up going out to Egypt and Palestine at the end of the war,
right?
And flying out there. In fact, that's where he met my mum. Was on a troop ship out to Egypt, and they got married in Egypt.
Oh my God!
So. But he was in the RAF, and then when he came back from that, and he did about a year at the end of the war in the RAF, and then came out, was sort of demobbed. And he, at that stage, went and asked the Benevolent Fund for, I think it was something like a loan of, the Military Benevolent Fund, a loan of something like £90 or £100 to be able to put down deposit on a house, to buy a house. And they wouldn't give it to him. And as a result, we sort of stayed in council accommodation. Well, my mum and dad bought their first house when I was in 1980, having first applied for a house, or tried to get a loan for a house when they came out of service in 1946. So that kind of lifestyle change, and that whole business of looking after people. Well, not even looking after people. That's the annoying thing, really. It's not a matter of looking after people. If you've gone and served your country, and I don't, whether it's served abroad in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever it was that the armed forces have been asked to serve, or indeed you've served your community by putting yourself in the line of danger by being part of the police force, I think the least you can expect is a decent pension and a job opportunity when you choose to leave, and somewhere decent to live. And unfortunately, it became more and more apparent the more work that we did, and the more I got involved with various military charities, and then obviously with the police charities as well, that just simply wasn't the case. And my dad was a huge one for, interesting, you were talking about Captain Sir Tom Moore just a moment ago. And I saw him yesterday, actually, after he came in, socially distanced. But I've been doing some stuff with Tom over the fundraising period. And so I just wanted to go, I drove up there just to congratulate him and had 5 minutes with him.
Wow.
Afterwards. But he reminds me very much of my dad's view, which is it's all about honour. And my dad has a few sayings: you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not for a round of applause. And you do the right thing whether anyone else is joining in or not. Yeah. And those are key things that sort of keep going for me. And at the moment, over the COVID period of time, the police force have been handed a series of hospital passes to try and enforce, where they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. And everybody, of course, these days has an opinion on how to do it better. But they never actually put on the uniform and take the risk of going out on single patrol at night and walking through the door of on an industrial estate, or try and break up a fight between 4 people with knives or bottles. But they're full of opinions. So I just think the right thing to do is to keep on reminding people that. I mean, I just did it on Twitter just now. Somebody was saying, I don't think the London police has done a very good job. It's like 900,000 crimes last year, over 900,000 crimes last year, over 200,000 violent attacks to deal with, 149 murders, and like 41,000 police to deal with all of that. So overall, they're doing a pretty good job. There are areas where they can improve, plainly, and there's a really important conversation to have at the moment about how you police areas, and plainly BAME communities feel they're not being policed in an empathetic way. But the future of that has to be more officers coming from BAME communities, and that opportunity and building that trust. But in the process of looking at a specific problem, we shouldn't ignore the 900,000 crimes that were dealt with. That, you know, this huge workload that just a few people do and put themselves in line of danger for us on a daily basis. There's 400 officers a week. 400 police officers a week currently being injured. You know, somebody's got to keep reminding people that the reason we can go to work, or we can leave our house empty whilst we go to work, or our kids can walk peacefully and safely to school, and that drugs lords don't run the streets, is because the police are there trying to deal with all that.
Yeah. Do you think that? Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah,
great. Do you think, because my obviously I left the police in April, and whenever I had the biggest critic, you might think, or the suspicion, or just naive, because all they've had is the mainstream media or social media, and you tend to get the negativity, and when they join us, they go, "Oh my God, I never knew you were like normal people, and you actually care. You give a beep about things, you know." And the thing I've respected about you, Nick, so much is you are a real people person, and there's going back to Tom, is when he was having a bit of trouble with the paparazzi and all that, and they needed to build a fence. And you actually said to me privately, "I'd love to get the team down there," he said, and to help him out with that. But there was some issues, and I think it was already being done. And I sent you a message. But the trouble is,
I told you that because I didn't want to let anybody know that it was me that did it.
Was it you who did it? It was you that did it. See, there you go. There you go.
I contacted a lot of different fencing people, some lovely people who work in family teams. So they were still working because they were working in separate family teams.
Yeah.
The only way we could do this, there was a lovely woman up there in the Midlands who sort of became the sort of chief in charge of it, and she got them all together and all to socially distance. And they basically turned up and built a 70-foot, 7-foot high fence in front of the paparazzi to give the family just a bit of peace of mind and the ability to sleep. The family, I should say this very clearly, because you know these things are listened into and then people like jump to conclusions. The family were extraordinarily grateful for the press coverage and the media coverage, but to go from your dad walking around the house 100 times on his 100th birthday to the world's media camped out at the end of your drive, and then occasionally just deciding to walk down the drive in order to come and see you because they had a deadline to hit was too much. So I was able to organise for a bit of a fence to give them some privacy so the kids weren't being photographed all the time. And then the other thing I did was just basically got in the shark pool that is the media, and I include myself in that because you know you operate in that sort of weird environment. There are just really good people with really good hearts and really good moral compasses. And I knew a PR person called Megan Carver, who is just a wonderful human being and a really good sort of compass and moral compass. And I rang her up and said, "Look, Captain Tom's family could do with some help." She's like, I'll do it, absolutely, I'll do it, I'll sort it out straight away. Took it on.
The only reason I didn't think it was you, Nick, was because I said if you know it was Nick, because there'd be an extension of decking and there'd be a full-on jacuzzi in the corner, but it was just a fence, so it couldn't have been Nick. I said,
mate, that fence. Let me just tell you this: the guys who went in there during difficult times managed to get all the materials and everything turned up. They went in there with machinery and they built I think it was 70 meters of 7-foot high concrete posted fence in something like 7 hours.
Blimey.
It was a proper SOS organised. By the way, in case people think I'm nervous, I thought before I go on here on this, I better because I was slouching around the house in the gym jams earlier on, so I went and had a bath. I left it too late. You know when you come out of a bath and you got the sweats on afterwards.
Yeah. Well, you posted yourself in the bath earlier this week, didn't you, to get everyone's hearts racing? I was trying to zoom in on the Chrome to see if I could see any more detail.
Yeah.
No, somebody said there was a dodgy-looking shadow in the bottom of the bath, but it was just the shower rail. The shadow of the shower rail. I was in the bath and I suddenly realised. I looked at the time. I was like, because I sit and read it. I've got a dodgy shoulder at the moment, and I sort of lay in the bath with one shoulder sort of deep in the hot water, and I just read for a while on my phone, and then I came off. I was really engrossed in this thing about Roman archaeology, and I came out of it and I looked at the time and I was like, holy mackerel, I'm actually on television.
This has just changed everyone's ways now, and because especially with the BBC and all that, it's much more acceptable to have a bit of a bad sound, a bit of a bad background, maybe a kid running through when you're talking about a very serious political thing, and maybe it's just eased everyone up a little bit, and because I'm wearing a shirt, but I'm wearing, because of the
wearing nothing around the waist. Is that what you're saying?
No, completely naked. Completely.
We did a test for this just a little while ago, and Nick was wearing nothing above the waist.
No, I know.
Let me tell you this. The other day, I get a text from Harry saying, "By the way, mate, could you do a quick test now?" So I do the test and I look up. I said, "Look, give me 10 minutes." So I then put the thing, and up it comes. And all I can see is a paddling pool. And all of a sudden, out of the paddling pool, like a beluga whale, comes the snow commander with his
Right. Just for that, I'm going
to... Does that lead us nicely onto the first picture, Harry?
Yeah, that one there, you mean?
Oh, look
hey, that was just taken yesterday, I'll have you know.
It definitely wasn't taken yesterday because I've not only put on a COVID stone, I've put on somebody else's COVID stone as well. Because I've struggled. I just cannot put weight on, however much I try. And people don't know the stress I'm under about it. You're not going to make any friends with that kind of statement.
I had to, first of all, because DIY SOS, I know is big in people's minds, and it was just incredible when I went down there and saw you, and I didn't want to be in the way or anything. And I thought, I'm going to ask the obvious questions. What do they do? What's in it for them? And your answer, because there's two things I couldn't understand: how you got so many people to give products and time for free, because nobody does anything for free, and that's and were they sponsored, advertising, whatever. And the other two is how you must have some organization team, like clockwork, getting everyone working in at the right time. And your answer basically was what, Nick?
Well, there's two people in the office that get people that organize it. It's literally, and they're two junior researchers, so they're two 22-year-olds who are doing it. That was the site that we were on. And actual fact, and you say that you didn't want to interrupt, but I gave you a bit of a tour around. I gave you about like an hour's tour.
Because, I did, and what I noticed, you were giving advice to Bill. You said, because you've done so many of these things, there was something to do with an RSJ or something, and you said, well, have you considered doing this, and I went, yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. And so you were really involved. And when you said about the amount of time you're on air, and he said, no, we're not on here for just the camera. We're here all day. And this is what people don't realise.
All other television programmes, the presenters sit in a Winnebago until it's time to do their piece to camera. And then they go out and do their piece to camera, and they go back and other people carry on with the job. The thing about SOS is you only get out of it what you put in. And those people that turn up and work for free would very quickly feel pretty miffed. That was a long time ago. Feel pretty miffed if they're on site working and they can't see any purple shirts. Plus, I don't know how other TV presenters do it. I would be bored rigid sitting in an office when I could actually be in the building site. I mean, there are various standing jokes amongst it, like Billy's dangerous with electric, so he keeps electrocuting people. Julian is constantly eating cake. Chris is a pretty agricultural plaster with that exceptionally long arms, and who once, by the way, put his own tooth out in a bar. In front of me. He had a bad toothache and he couldn't get an NHS appointment, so he came on the job and asked the researchers if they could find an NHS place to take it out, and they couldn't. So on the third evening, we sat in the bar and he drank half a bottle of whiskey and went and got a pair of pliers out of the car and pulled them down. It went off like a gunshot. I've never heard anything like it. And the blood was horrific. Anyway, woke up the next morning and found out he pulled out the wrong tooth. As we say, agricultural. And there's this ongoing thing because they were best buddies at school. But Julian is proper Devon. He's Ashburton, Liverton. Actually,
he's around my way.
Well, yeah. An actual fact, his family, the original, they're from Chagford because my nickname in the SOS crew is Chagford, and the reason is because Julian's father was a master builder. If they asked me to do something and I did it right, they'd say that's more like Chagford.
Okay.
Like Chagford quality building. So I became Chagford. And then the weird thing was that because we've been doing this 21 years.
21 years.
Me, Chris, and Julian are all Chagford. So I'll walk in and say to Julian, "Where's Chagford?" And he'll say he's upstairs. And then I'll go upstairs, and then Chris will walk in the back and say, "Where's Chagford?" And Julian will go, "I just sent him upstairs." And the director will go, "Hang on a second, who's Chagford?" And I was him. How did you know he was talking about him? Well, it's obvious. And he's asked about him. It's like, so, which is actually, but the reason I mentioned that is because, Chris was actually born in Cornwall and moved to Devon when he was 6 months old. But Julian still calls him a blow-in.
That's means something entirely different, I'm sure, than down our Cornwall way.
Up here it goes.
He's not proper Devon. And actual fact, Chris is very proudly Cornish, despite the fact it was only the first 6 months of his life was.
Good.
So,
we need to keep our Cornishmen because we're quite rare, and we need to keep shouting the cream on top sort of motto and go for it.
I'm neither Devon nor Cornish, but why would you have cream on top? It's just bizarre.
I tell you what, we'll lose 50% of people following this because if we start that conversation,
we're all right. Because I've got on SOS, I've got one believes it's one way round and one believes it's the other way round. So we've got it covered.
That means you try twice as many, which is brilliant.
Well, this is it. When I was doing my VIPing, Lady Mary, beautiful lady who retired, is sadly no longer with us, and she was a wonderful person. She was a Lord Lieutenant for Cornwall, and she retired, and it was brilliant when she did a leaving do for herself. A celebratory thing. The Devon and Cornwall came together, Lord Lieutenants, and they had half cream on jam and half jam on cream, just so there were no fights in the posh hotel. Brilliant. That's how to do it. That's how they do it.
We can talk about
so what I was actually trying to explain, and I didn't actually get around to finish it, was the fact that because I went off on a tangent, is that
I interrupted.
We all spend time on site, and we spend time with all the people. So we're there to be honest, first day I'm there on time. I'm really bad at getting up in the morning. So normally everybody else gets in there at 8 o'clock, and I get in at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I get in there about 9:15. But I'm there till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So. And you're there, and even if it's just to stand and have a cup of tea with them, or to go and get some teas, or to stand and have a cigarette with them, or a chat, or speak to their wife on the phone, or whatever it happens to be. And then during the week, you build up a massive rapport where you're all working together. And I always say to them at the beginning of the job, during the course, I have to do two things. One is I say, some of you may have come along thinking this is an advertising opportunity. It isn't. We're not allowed to show who you are or where we've got materials from or anything else. That you have to do this altruistically or not at all. And so if you want to leave, we understand that you might not want to join, and nobody ever leaves. People say, I'll give you 2 days, and end up staying the whole week. And then the other thing is, it will start out as a DIY SOS job, but by the end of the week, it won't be our job anymore. It'll be your job. And they take ownership of it. And we don't micromanage it either. In actual fact, we've got a set of the plans, and we break them up into teams, the plumbers, the chippies, or the whatever it happens to be. We show them the plans, and we find one person sort of naturally rises to the top of a group of 3 lots of builders. It will be the sort of natural leader. You let them sort it out amongst yourself. You don't appoint somebody because they'll sort it out amongst themselves. Yeah. And then suddenly you find that they're all working together. And the other thing is people think that the work's going to be a bit slapdash because it's done in 9 days, but it's absolutely cock on because every builder wants his little bit to be perfect because he's got other builders around him watching him doing what he's doing. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's got to be absolutely perfect. So the net result is you have a very happy workforce who all trust each other, who are all empowered with making decisions themselves, which is actually the exact opposite of what most companies and organisations try to do now. You know, I noticed recently. This would be something you can talk about, maybe. Is that I noticed recently the police have started telling police command groups have started telling people they can't have their own private Twitter interactions with the public, which I think is an actually exceptionally good way of humanizing the police and seeing the person behind the uniform. And it's critical at a time when you need to make sure that people understand that the police are just you and me who've just put a uniform on, and they're going home to their kids and living in your street. That actually telling them they can't interact on social media, I think puts up an even greater barrier, makes them further removed.
I mean, the problem, the reason they're doing that is because they've got, now if I reflect with my force, who were really, really supportive with me, and I would have gone in the second week without a doubt if it hadn't been for my chief and my deputy. But the corporate comms people are, they're busy anyway. And then if I put a tweet out, even if it's positive, the amount of extra interest that gains, which is great for the police, but they can't cope with it. So then they get a negative one. And so I put one with a 30,000 reach, and I got 2 complaints. Those complaints are dealt with in exactly the same way as if I walked down the street in full uniform and told someone to pee off. So it hasn't caught up with technology. And somebody would just...
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but what they do is they tell all the police themselves and the senior police who've got accounts that they can't actually tweet themselves. And then they get sort of like a 23-year-old media graduate who actually knows nothing about policing to take over the thing. How does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, and there's some exceptions, aren't there, Dave? We've all seen them, but you're right, and their priority is to look after their workforce and cope with the work, whereas the chief's priority is to get more conversation going with the public, let them know our successes and things. And they're in a quandary. Do they put more people in the media officers or more coppers on the street? And that's the problem. And we haven't caught up with dealing with complaints fast, quick, and get them over with, and telling them, sorry, that's not a complaint, because it's ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
I see that sorting itself out anytime soon. That's a whole...
No, I can't.
Actually, hang on a second. Dave, you're still in the police, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, don't take part in that. Don't answer my question then.
Too long a thing to deal with. You know, there's a guy posted the other day that he'd just come to the end of 2.5 years of a complaint where he knew he'd done nothing wrong, and after 2.5 years they'd told him he'd done nothing wrong, but it hung over him for 2.5 years. It's just ridiculous. You can't have that.
The other thing is, again, here's another one. Here's another one you won't want to take part in, Dave. Is the IOPC taking 5 years to do, you know, whilst a person is on hold, which is, you know, it's not just the copper who may well be innocent, whose life is on hold and his family's life is on hold for 5 years or 6 years or 8 years or some of these ridiculous cases, but also whoever has actually brought the complaint is not getting any answer.
No, there's no winners there, and it really puts people's careers on hold. I mean, if say I got a complaint that was a year old and it's rumbling along, and I think I'd love to join dog section, but it's what I'd join the police to do. The applications are out. Applications. Have you got an ongoing complaint? It doesn't matter. You're guilty until proven innocent.
Yep.
Oh, I can't apply for it. Now the change is, and they'll be probably screaming this. The change is, as from February this year, it has changed so that with a complaint, they have to give some sort of timeline of expectation. Now, let's see if things change, because finally they did realise that this is ridiculous. No one's winning here. But let's see how it changes. There's some good parts, and there's other things that they've changed. Nick, can I just grab this moment? I'm going to grab this moment because my mother is actually officially known as your biggest fan. And she watches all your stuff, and she's 85, and she's been through a bit of a rough patch at the moment with her health. But there she is. Can you just say hello to Moira, because she will be watching this?
Oh, hello, Moira.
That's brilliant.
Moira, lovely to meet you. You must be very proud of your son. It's shame he didn't inherit your good looks.
Yeah, she is, and she speaks like the Queen. I always introduce her. She is. She's more than
speaks like the Queen.
She does speak exactly like she's posher than the Queen, actually. Yeah.
What happened to you then?
Well, I tell you, I was dragged up. She did a bit, but then that was it. I was, yeah.
You were running up and down cliffs, blowing things up.
Yeah. But those were the days, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know about your how you're older than me, Nick, obviously. How you're and Dave, I know you growing up, mate. You're lucky you didn't get locked up most of the time. You just escaped. You know, it's all in your book. It's all in your book. But we just went away for the day, and we came back at 6:30 before it got dark for dinner. That's all that mattered, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was definitely an easier going. Yeah, but then I read a really weird fact the other day. I was reading one of the police reports or something, and comparing it back into the 1930s or 40s or something. And there are no more attacks on children per capita than there were in the 30s and 40s. And yet, when we were kids, my mum would kick me out when I was when I was 10 years old. My trip to school when I was 10 was to walk a mile from Southall to Norwood Green, get a 232A bus to Ealing Broadway, get on a tube and go to Boston Manor, and then walk a mile from Boston Manor to get to school.
Jesus.
At 10 years old, I wouldn't dream of letting my 10-year-old do that at the moment. But we also used to get, like in the summer, she'd kick us out at 9 o'clock in the morning. We go off and play football and run around, the canal and all kinds of other things. And then we'd come back in when we were hungry. So, so I think there's a lot more fear around of things than there is necessarily, when you drive through London, when I drive through London, I look at the parks. There's just not as many kids playing on the parks as there used to be when I was a kid. You see adults doing stuff. You'll see, Tai Chi classes and various forms of vegan tree hugging and things like that going on. But you don't actually see kids out kicking a football around, jumpers for goalposts, all that kind of stuff as much as you do.
The other side is they're all on the video games. Give them those football matches, and they do have social networks on there. I've got two 21-year-olds, and they're talking to their mates, and they're doing strategies, and they're with the game. So, but it is a shame, because there I am as the frustrated old dad saying, "Go buy a bicycle, go ride around the place." But it's different. It's just different, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess you're right. And which takes us back to the other thing you were talking about earlier about jumbo jets and remembering jumbo jets. I recently had to do some, and me remembering the first ones. I recently had to do some filming in the British Toy Museum, which is up in North London. And whilst I was wandering around the exhibits, there were several of the toys I had as a kid were actually in the exhibits. When your own toys are in the toy museum, you're getting really old.
Oh, that's great. Look, we got to talk a little bit about your time in the jungle, because that's one thing I could never do. I think I'd be quite happy sleeping around in the grubs and all that. It's the eating stuff. I can't do it. And you were absolutely phenomenal. You won everything with that. The glasses have chewed up everything.
His attitude was like, "Yep. Come on, then, let's do it."
Yeah. You were drinking it like pints in a pub. Honestly, it was phenomenal. So good skills for you. Was there anything there that you thought was just completely different than you were expecting? Was it a shock to your system, or was it? How do you find it?
I'll tell you the truth, which is what not a lot of people will do in this circumstances. I never ever wanted to do it. It was just not. I'm not the kind of TV that I ever wanted to do. But they kept on offering more and more money, and I'd recently had a divorce, and I was basically the money would secure my little boy's future, and I thought, well, it got to a point where I couldn't say no anymore. At which point, then the great trick is, can you go in there and come out without them managing to make you look like a complete arse? Because their entire thing is to make you look as stupid as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And make you fall out with each other, and make you angry with each other, and sleep deprive you, and make people lose their tempers and things. And so for me, I was just interested to see as more of a social experiment, really. And because I always want people to be supportive and empathetic and good to each other. I mean, that's basically the driving thing in all of the programming that I do.
Yeah.
I wanted to see whether you could take something which is actually built specifically to make people fall out with each other and manage it from the inside, to create that sort of bond between people. And I was really lucky that the people I was in there were really lovely people who had a good heart. Yeah. Harry's a really lovely guy. And James McVeigh, the young guy from the guitarist from the Vamps, was just one of the nicest people ever. And
but compared to all the other jungles that had gone before, everyone commented on how different it was. Obviously, you know, you'd gone in there with that attitude, and hopefully others had too. And you know, it seems to have paid off. It was I remember being, you know, on the edge of our seat, and it was really enjoyable viewing. And I don't normally watch that sort of thing, but so, you know, if you've gone in there to achieve it, I think you certainly did. I bet the producers hated you though.
Oh yeah, they did. They absolutely hated me. They were furious with me for managing things. One of the questions just came up, by the way, and I saw it come up on screen. How much weight did I lose? I lost 14.5 kilos in 20 days. So it was physically tough, and like hungry wise, it was tough. But there's little things like, for example, they do these things where you do a challenge and they'll pick and you can win something at the end of it, and what you get is a little, let's say maybe 2 brownies between 12 people. So 2 little brownies between 12 people. So you cut them into tiny little chunks. Now the whole point is all you're eating is plain, not plain rice, like as in plain rice that you eat when you have with your curry, but I mean literally dry rice with no flavour on it at all, no salt, no pepper, no anything to flavour it. So it's essentially like eating cardboard and dry rice and dry beans. And so I was sort of, when I was cooking, I was almost like trying to slightly burn them to get a little bit of flavour into them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, for about the first 3 or 4 days, your taste buds, you're in agony because it's like eating cardboard, and you're just starting to get used to it. And then you win all of these little challenges, and they give you a tiny little bit of chocolate like this, like that. And then you taste it, and it wakes your taste buds up again and makes it a nightmare for another 3 days. That's the point.
Wow.
So I worked this out, and when we won a challenge, I said I didn't want any, and the others were like, "Why don't you want any?" And I was like, "Because it's there to wake your taste buds up and make it even harder." Yeah. So some of the others started saying, "Oh, I'm not interested in it anyway." And it went from going, "Hurrah, we won something," to the cloche of shattered dreams. And it just really cheesed off the producers. They got more and more angry about what was going on. But in the end, and just on your pints thing, Harry, there was a thing where we had to drink various pints, green ants, blended green. I think the worst one was blended crocodile anus, and various other things. But the fact of the matter is, I spent my life in rugby clubs and playing rugby. And if a rugby player was to get beaten drinking a pint of anything, and it doesn't matter what it is, by a bunch of TV celebrities, I would never have been able to show my face in a rugby club again. Plus, as I said at the time to the Australian crew who were filming it, although they didn't put it on the TV, I take a pint of the blended crocodile anus over Australian beer any day of the week.
So we get an awful lot of requests for stuff, Harry. Have you seen it? Have you seen it in the people keep asking about those?
The co-star. There's a story there as well, isn't there? There is a story. I've been noticing all these questions.
So when you go in there, they give you red trousers to wear. But the red trousers aren't red. They're actually khaki trousers that they've dyed red just before the programme. So whenever you get wet, the red dye bleeds out of them. Now, I made a terrible mistake of taking in, they said you could take in 4 pairs of underpants and 2 pairs of swimming trunks. I took in 4 pairs of white underpants. So after no time at all, my underpants looked like I'd had some kind of groinal incident with the chainsaw. So I couldn't wear the pants anymore. So I only had 1 pair of trunks and that pair of budgie smugglers, which I'd taken in as an extra spare pair of pants. So I had to wear them non-stop, and I managed to keep them covered until about 17 days in. And in the end, I was just like, I don't care anymore. So I'm stood there in a pair of budgie smugglers and a pair of boots, and then going down for a shower. End up going down with Emily to pump water. And of course, they took the perfect angle for me to be pumping away with the budgie smugglers on. So when I came back, I said to the PR said to me, "Look, we're going to bury the whole budgie smuggler thing. We're never going to talk about it publicly ever again. It's just going to go away if you don't talk about it or answer questions." And then my mate rang me, who's got a mate just down the road whose son has had operations on his leg since he was born and needed another operation in America to try to raise the money. And he said, "Look, there's so much interest in the budgie smugglers. Will you auction them?" And the thing is, it's not so much the auction itself, but because I did it, all the press carried the story about it, and they all published the Just Giving page. So a lot more money for the thing, and somebody bought them for £2,500, and they're on the wall. They're on a wall in a sports club somewhere in Bath, I think. There's a sponsored run, a 5-mile run, where everyone wore red budgie smugglers.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely fantastic.
So and as we're going, we've got 5 minutes. Can you believe it? 5 minutes to the end, and this other show.
An hour.
Yeah, mate, it is. This final, the latest thing you're doing at the moment is that home is where the art is, and I thought I'm not going to be interested in this, but I love the concept. You get somebody who actually, you've got 3 different skills, whether it be turning wood, oil painting, or glass, and they come up and they put something that's very unique for the people who are wanting it. And I just absolutely love it. I love it. So how did you fall into that one?
A friend of mine who was developing a concept for an art program contacted me. I like to get into programs to develop them about a year in advance so that we can hone them and make sure they have some emotional contact, some emotional.
Yeah.
People come up with all kinds of ideas for TV programs. They go, we need to make more programs about the internet. And it's like, well, why do we need more programs about the internet? Well, because everybody uses the internet. Well, everybody's got a kettle, but you don't want to make a program about it. So they came to me and said, we want to do an art-based program. But the trouble is, the only art-based programs, people think they don't really like art, and it's a difficult area. So I wanted to make a program. So look, when people say to me, I'm not really interested in art, like you said, I don't think art's going to interest me. Did you choose the mugs that you have in your house with the designs on them? Did you choose the curtains, the cushions, the bedspreads? Did you choose the things you brought back from abroad that you decorate your house with? What's that thing hanging up on the wall behind you? Is that like a Welsh love spoon on the wall behind you? And you've got Finn behind you, and you've got the bottom of a Welsh love spoon in behind you, Harry.
I've got a what of a what? No, that's lusty glaze.
What's that? No, the heart.
Lusty glaze. Oh, the heart. Oh yeah, that. I don't know. My wife found it and thought it looked nice.
Well, there you go. So the thing is, art doesn't have to be half a cow in formaldehyde just because some bloke in London told us that's what art is. And it doesn't have to be, programs don't have to be, did I accidentally buy a Caravaggio in my local boot fair? There are hundreds and in fact thousands of really amazing artists around the country that do incredible work for as little as £200. For £2,000 you can have something spectacular and amazing made in glass or wood, or a painting that says something about you or the place that you love, which you can actually then hand on to your kids and on to the next generation. We live in a disposable, keep up with the Joneses society where you get the nicest thing from IKEA or wherever it happens to be. Where's that special thing that says something about you that you can then hand on to the next generation? You've got a beautiful painting of Finn behind you there, which is great, and obviously is going to be something that people will keep, and future generations will talk about you and your story with you and Finn and everything that happened. You just pointed out the picture of Lusty Glaze, which isn't actually a 1970s porn star, is actually, in fact, a cove down in Cornwall, which is particularly lovely. I know it very well, in actual fact. And it's a really lovely place. And there's something that obviously means something that's special to you. And that's all we're doing on the program, is getting people to wake up to the fact that actually for a very small amount of money, you can have something very special. And we let the artists see around their houses before they meet them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing which you don't realize how much you say about yourself in the way that you decorate your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Harry in the shirt that you wear.
Yeah. This is my VIP Recce shirt.
We're both wearing. I tried to outdo Harry because I know there's a bit of a bromance going on with you two. I mean, Harry doesn't stop talking about you. He absolutely adores. We all adore you. The whole nation adores you.
Well, to be honest, I'm slightly. No, I've got to clear this up.
You came and turned up at the Albert Hall for me at the police orchestra event.
That was an incredible evening. That was the first time I met you properly. We've been talking together for a while on social media, but what a wonderful evening. That was for care of police survivors, and what an emotional evening. And you know what? Everyone knows what an amazing presenter you are, but how you're able to pitch it to different things. The program that you make, DIY SOS, it is an incredibly emotional program, and there must be some stories that must change you. And yet you're able to pitch it, and you're able to make it fun, and you're able to get some banter in there. And that was exactly the same at Cops. You know, it's an emotional evening, and when there was time to be emotional, we all were. And then you could bring us all back up again and start. I think that really is a measure of a great
skillful.
Harry and
so skillful.
I'm looking. I know we're about to run out of time, and I just want to say this to all of the police that are out there that are tuning into this. I know it feels like you're in the middle of a storm at the moment, and all social media are all the shouty people, and they're all the people who have an opinion on how you do your job and how to do it better, and how and you get a lot of negativity. The important thing to know is that the silent majority actually do appreciate what you do and understand how difficult what you do is. And the difficulty is you're never going to hear from them, because you're never going to walk down a street and knock on a door and go, I'm just knocking on the door to let you know that nothing bad has happened in your street this week.
So important.
The front line between good and bad is that you're mostly facing bad, and the only time you turn around to face good is when you're giving them bad news. That tilts your view of the world in what you do. But don't be mistaken, what you do is really important, and the silent majority genuinely value what you do. So keep doing what you do, and me and a few others will keep trying to speak up for you and be as shouty on your side rather than all the shouty ones being on the other side.
Fantastic. And it means so much. I get so many private messages to say, oh, it's just lovely to have someone shouting from our corner, which is the truth of it. That's the frustrating thing. And it's people like you, Nick.
You'll know me well enough to know that on occasions when things have come up and I said, guys, that's not good. This isn't, where you've got to face decisions, where you've got to think about, new ways of doing things, where you've got to consider how people believe they're being policed. There's really important conversations to be had at the moment, and people have got to feel in all communities that they are being policed empathetically, and there has to be that conversation. But at the same time, this is not a time to be actually ignoring the selfless service of people who go out and put themselves in harm's way on our behalf. We've got to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, and making sure that we make proper changes that are needed. But at the same time, remembering, let's not forget that PC Harper's family are still waiting for the trial to go through, and their son husband went out to work and didn't come home, and there's a policeman up in Glasgow at the moment who's actually ill in hospital, still suffering from the stab wounds that he received whilst trying to protect people in Glasgow recently. These are very real, and remember, 400 police a week being injured. So there are very real threats out there that we are luckily don't have to deal with, because lots of people are doing it and then going home to their families hopefully at the end of the day. So keep strong, all of you.
And it's Dave. Dave is the only one in this room who's doing that right now. So thank you, Dave.
No, thank you.
Dave.
I always leave the last bit to Finn. He's fast asleep, bless him.
Yeah. We normally see.
Is that a criticism of my conversation? That he's actually...
I think so. But he can say what he likes.
I would say that's far from a criticism. He's got another dog that usually shows his nether regions and proudly on the camera whenever he can. So
I didn't think it was the right appropriate website to do it on.
That's true. Guys, thank you so much for coming in. It's been absolutely fascinating just to really get to the crux of it and get to the people you who is there.
Get to the crux.
Yeah, the crux of it. But no,
did we answer enough of the questions of people asking questions?
No,
we don't have time now, do we?
I think we asked about 3 questions and everything else was tangent. So
there are a lot.
I'm happy to answer it. I can stay on for a few minutes to answer some of their questions.
Good, okay. We'll definitely do that. You guys get your questions up. This is a friend of mine in London. Amazing week. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Nick, for saying what you just did. That was a risk because I know this person and I didn't read it before I put it on. So I got away with that one. Thank you, Jem.
Who should we get on next, Nick? How are we going to beat you? Who should we get on next? Who can you recommend? Who do you know? Who's in the black book?
Have you had John Nicol on?
We have, yes.
We have. We've had John Nicol, and this is so we realised we're having a theme of aeroplanes and stuff, and so we needed someone as well, which we all love, But it's funny because you get somebody who's in aeroplane. We've got John Nichols, who's a navigator, and we've got Mandy Hickson, who is a tornado pilot. So we could have them both in together, and because there's an awful lot of banter between that.
Yeah, just stand back and watch and go for each other.
Yeah,
there's a couple of amazing Olympians that do stuff for me that are associated with the military as well. So we could, I could put you in contact with a couple of Amy Williams, who was I don't know, you were the skeleton tobogganist.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I mean, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing because
the author of the military, obviously, because there are other halves in the military, and she's one of the patrons of Rugby for Heroes with me. I'm sure she'd happily come on and talk about her Olympic experience as well, because she's and she's brilliant. She's great. She's great chatter. But yeah, no,
didn't she as well?
One thing I wanted to ask you, Nick, is because for every one family you can help, there are hundreds or thousands that you're having to turn away. How frustrating must that be? Or is it those two people in the offices that have to search through everything? I mean, you have quite strict criteria, don't you? How frustrating. You want to help everyone, but you just can't.
Yeah, we get about 400 applications a month. And we really need to. We do 9 builds a year, and we really should be doing like 99 builds a year.
Yeah.
I think the thing it is terrible. The most difficult thing we do is when we tell people that we can't come and do we can't come and help them. And we try and take. We've taken on some massive things. We built a Grenfell for the families.
Yeah, saw that. That was a 2-episode one, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 huge buildings. One was to rebuild the boxing club, because families in the area knew how important that club was in terms of keeping their young people on the straight and narrow and getting them involved with physical activity and all those kinds of things as well. So they decided, the families and the community decided that was really important to rebuild that boxing club as a centre for the kids to keep them occupied.
Yeah.
The other thing was the community centre, which actually had cooking facilities and a restaurant possibility and meeting rooms and counselling rooms and all those kind of things, where Child Bereavement UK, which is another charity I'm involved with, we're doing continuing to do all of the counselling for the children who had been involved in and around the fire. So I think one of the things that we take some comfort in is that the SOS, on the face of it, is a building program, but really it's about people. It's about interaction.
Yeah,
how people
totally see that.
But it'll also, we get a chance to shine a light on various people who have fallen through the net in society, very gently, without ramming it down your throat. One of the great things about that is if you were to do a documentary on the BBC about PTSD in a soldier coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan, you might get 1.5 million viewers. When we did this in Manchester and featured John Borge and talked about his PTSD, we got 9 million viewers.
Yeah.
And 9 million people then understand PTSD a little bit better in a gentle way, but they understand the difficulties that people are facing. So we can get to use it that way. I want to answer a question I just saw. Raina said, are the interviews with the families incredibly emotional? And yes, they are. And the trick with those interviews is that I think because we've got 20 years of doing it, because we've been doing it for 20, 21 years, people trust us because they've seen me do interviews before. The other thing is when I sit down to chat to people, you only get to see maybe 4.5 minutes of the interview, but I will spend an hour and a half chatting to the people. We set the cameras up and I'll start chatting away, and at no point does it say action, at no point does the director say we started. The cameraman will walk behind the person I'm interviewing and just give me a nod that we're now recording, and I'll roll into it. And so it becomes a very natural conversation.
Yeah, perfect.
And the other thing is I have a very specific interview technique, which is that I never write down or think of any questions before I do the interview. Because if I have a set of 5 questions to ask, the interview will go where I want it to go. Yeah. Whereas if I ask one question and listen, the interview will go where they want it to go. And how do I know what question to ask somebody who's lost their daughter or has a partner who's been involved in an accident and has a disability? And I'm never going to find those things out. It's up to them to lead me where they want to go. It's about being patient and quite often being a good TV presenter is actually knowing when to shut up.
And that's my problem.
Film, Nick? What film are you writing? There's a couple of people, lots of people asking about the film. What film are you writing?
I wrote Golden Years. Some years ago, it's sort of based on my aunts and uncles when I was growing up, and it's about a bunch of my aunts and uncles, when I was a kid, I had older, because I was quite a late kid. My aunts and uncles were sort of older already, and we all used to go off to Wales because the Welsh side of the family, not by blood, by marriage, were always getting married. So we were always going up there for weddings, which is great. But my aunts and uncles were a really interesting bunch of older people. And so when I wrote this, it was the premise of the film is that it's about a load of pensioners who can't get by on their pensions anymore because their pension schemes they invested in have gone bust or have been badly invested and so on and so forth. So they kind of accidentally end up combining a caravan tour of National Trust properties with robbing banks and building societies along the way.
Brilliant.
But very cleverly, they wear old people's masks when they rob the banks, so everybody assumes they must be young. And their getaway vehicle is an old Rover towing a caravan, of course, which is waved through police lines at every opportunity.
It's brilliant. It's lovely. I'm watching it tonight. Hopefully, it's. Where can I get it now? Is it? I think
it was on Netflix for a long time and on Amazon for a long time. And
if it's on there, then
I think it's weirdly on. If you've got Sky, I think it's on a channel called London Life. They're running it like 4 times a day at the moment for some reason. So.
Oh right. No, I don't earn enough for Sky.
It's got an amazing British cast. It's got brilliant people in it. Yeah, incredible cast. And took me 8 years between writing it to actually getting it into cinemas.
So
I'm
Nick,
not surprised. Yeah.
the author of this book, give it another plug, Gareth Greaves. That dog is an amazing now retired police dog. Definitely worth a read. He's just asked, have you ever actually been out on patrol, or would you go out on patrol to see what it's like? Have you actually ever been out?
A long time ago I have. But the thing is, I've talked to you before about this, Harry, and actually as a group we've chatted at various stages. I try not to become too embedded in the police force because like various different police charities and police things have asked me if I'd like to be involved and whether I'd like to become part of it. And I think the thing for me is to maintain the fact that I've never been a policeman. I don't have to have intimate knowledge of it. I just have to try and present the facts as somebody outside who relies on the police force to look after me. And me having that specialist access is something that other people don't have. And I do this quite often when I do TV programs, and they go, well, you can go and do this and you can go and do that. It's like if there are things that other people can't go and do, I won't do it because I need to remain somebody who's a member. It's available on YouTube. I did not know that. There you go. I'm not getting any money for that then. I think that I try to stay outside of it. I don't want to become embedded as part of the police force. I don't want to become a spokesperson for the police force because all my buddies are in the police or that I'm a patron of a police something or other. And I want to be a spokesperson for the police because I think they do an incredibly tough job and a job that I don't think I could do. It's even if it does come with like some cool titles like Snow Commander.
Yeah. That's right. For anyone who doesn't know, for anyone who doesn't know, I might have to explain this. We have basically police officers who are trained in certain aspects. They have a list on their thing. So if they need one quickly,
given that as well.
It's like pole dancing name.
Honestly,
welcome to Snow Commander.
It's heckling. It's always heckling. This is outrageous. You turned against me. This is turned against me. But the thing is that it has to be said in a certain way.
The rain comes down on it. It's like that, but with a blowing machine of snow coming on sideways from the stage.
Look. We have this thing in Holden Hill. When it snows a little bit, it just fills up and thousands of cars, and they need an expert. And you have to say it in a certain way because I am a snow commander. But Nick has never.
I'm on Harry, and I understand it's a proper title for a very serious job, but there's no getting around the fact it does sound like a pole dancer's night name.
Well, have you got a special pair of buggy smugglers for the
don't we all? Especially when it's all cordoned off, we can go walk around completely naked. Nobody knows.
He's got a very odd piece he wears when he dances as the snow commander.
And I lived in Lusty Glazed Road as well. Then when people say, "Do you want to make your porn name or something by changing things?" I don't need to. It's my road I lived in, and it was my.
I swear to God, it's got to be the fifth act in the Chippendale show, doesn't it? Becomes the snow commander.
I'm willing to diversify in any way I can. I'll take your guys. It's been amazing. Go on,
Nick,
Dave.
I've got a little plug for my new charity, which we're still waiting for the charity number. But when it comes through, it's for retired police dogs. If I send you a pair of budgie smugglers, can you wear them just for 5 minutes so that I can auction for retired police dogs?
I think the great trick with playing the police dogs charity is a really important thing, and the work that you've done to actually stop police dogs being considered a piece of police equipment, and actually is extraordinary work and brilliant. Actually doing a police dogs charity, I think, is actually a more complicated thing, because there are so many different regions and departments and people involved, and so. But look, good luck and more power to you, Orbo, if you can get it work. I think the great trick with these things is managing to carry everybody with you along the journey, isn't it? And getting a consensus to make it happen. But and when you start charities, they're never easy to get going. I mean, I do a lot with the military charities, and one of the difficulties with the military charities is getting them to work together, because quite often the little military charities can be like a little kingdom for whichever command retired person it is that runs that little charity, and they don't really want to join in with others. I mean, I was asked at one stage if I'd like to be involved with a sort of task force to try and get military charities to work together, and I said I'd rather have my eyes taken out with a fork. Because sometimes, weirdly, people involved with charities lose track of the fact of what it is they're trying to do and who they're trying to do it for in the process of running a successful charity that looks great. And keeping your feet on the ground with those things, which is also part of the reason I try not to get overly involved in specific charities, and I can remain that person on the outside who can, can throw some support in sometimes, or shine the spotlight of publicity on something, but I don't become overly embedded in that group of people.
Anyway,
I think the perfect.
That's all.
Yeah, no, I just want to avoid wearing red budgie smugglers. If I
I think the perfect mix, Nick, is you've been in the public eye for a very long time now. Emphasise the very, but you've always dealt with humanity. You've not been distant and waving from the balconies type stuff. You've really been in amongst it. So you've really kept those grassroots. And I've got to say, mate, I've stepped on a few landmines with my Twitter, and I spoke to you. I spoke to you on one occasion on the phone for about half an hour, and you gave such worldly wise advice. Absolutely brilliant. I won't say what it all was, but blimey, you can tell that you've been around for a while and you know the best way through. And so, no, thanks for your support on that.
Really, sometimes good people can get run over and held up to disrepute because of interpretation or what the current zeitgeist is, and Tom, like Captain Tom and his family were getting snowed under, and that could have actually crushed them. They were incredibly grateful, but if they'd have at any point said, "Look, this is too much," then everyone would have gone, "Oh well, you think you'd be grateful?" You've got to manage those things, and very easily that can go wrong. So where I can use that experience, and I'm very lucky. Look, I'm a kid off a council estate who's travelled the world and done extraordinary things, and I know I have a platform. The very least I can do is use that platform to try and make sure that that I can help some people along the way. And the other thing that we need to fight, by the way, is that there is. I was reading something the other day, and there's grimdark, which is it's a personality. Grimdark, which is to read the worst into everything, which is what a lot of the media does during lockdown. Has been every time an announcement has been made, let's project forward to the worst possible outcome that could be, and talk about what happens when the worst possible outcome happens.
Yes,
and it's caused fear. Whereas, in actual fact, I think the zeitgeist of the country has been positivity, helping each other out, and we'll try and get through this however we can. And I think that people have been frightened quite often by the way that The media have done that, and that's what they call a grimdark. There's a new term called hope punk, which is basically talking positively about things, seeing positivity, reflecting positivity. And the difficulty with that is that very often mainstream media and people who are grimdark will say you are virtue signaling if you're doing good stuff. So you decide to do good stuff and be positive, and then they go and say, oh, look at him virtue signaling, which is essentially saying, I don't want to be involved with doing positive things. I'd rather sit on my sofa and criticize, and to make sure that you don't look better, I'm going to accuse you of virtue signaling because you're doing something good.
Yeah.
So everyone's frightened of doing good because they don't want to virtue signal. It's like, stop it. You're still you know. So positive, you go with a positive, and get rid of the energy sponges. You know, talk to people who are energy radiators. Who say you want to do something, give advice on how you might be able to do it. And when you say I want to write a book or I want to do this, and some people say, what makes you think you can do that? They're the people you need to move away and out of your life, because they're the energy sponges that are going to suck the life out of you. It's
certainly something that I've learned on Twitter with a tenth of the amount of followers that you have, and is basically those people you're not going to convince everyone, so don't even try. And it's much better to put positive stuff across instead of just attacking because you can get really involved in stuff there. It's a lot of people are just waiting for a bite. They're not even interested in the truth anymore. It's the fact that,
I'll tell you a story, which briefly, because I know when people are bored probably and want to go and have their dinner now. But
your numbers, I tell you, numbers are just as high as they were. So it's the same.
No, they've left it on whilst they've gone and done the cooking. Some years ago, there was something. My ex-wife and I talked about something to do with the baby that we were having, and it came out, and a whole load of people criticised, and it was about whether I was going to be at the birth or not.
Right.
And my wife had decided that she wanted her friend, who had 3 children, in a birthing pool, the way that she had, and had been through it 3 times, to be with her at the pool. And she wanted me to be nearby, but not actually in the room with her, because she thought that she was worried about me, and it would, all the rest of it. And that's fine. Whatever my rule is, whatever she wants in that circumstance is fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was publicised. It was front page news that I wasn't going to be at the birth. Mumsnet went mad. She wasn't going to. My wife wasn't going to let me have a relationship with my child. The child would never be normal. Just horrific stuff. The criticism was terrible. And there was one person sent me a tweet saying, "What a terrible." She said something really horrible to my ex-wife, and said, "You're stopping your husband having a relationship with your baby. You're a such and such." And I actually, rather than actually going, "How dare you, blah, blah, blah," I wrote back to her and said, "You must be in a terrible place to write something like that to somebody you don't know." And a couple of days later, she came back and she said, "Yes, I am. I've just lost my husband, and I'm up here in Scotland and all on my own."
Just lashing out.
Well, have you spoken to your friends? So I don't have any friends who want to hear from you at the moment. I was like, trust me, your friends will want to hear from you, and you've got to start talking to somebody, because she's on her own with 3 kids. Anyway, so I got her to call somebody. We chatted for a little while. We DM'd and chatted for a little while. Anyway, about a month later, she came back. She apologised. I wanted to apologise to my wife and wanted to apologise to me. She said, the thing was, I just lost my husband. All I could think about was him being at the birth of my 3 young children. She's dealing with all of those things. She says something in that moment. You react to it and call her whatever, in return. And suddenly that person's even more damaged. Yeah. When in actual fact, people you don't know people's circumstances. So I always say the thing to do is try not to be angry. Reply if you're being told something, try and be patient. And if they look like they're on a crusade, and God save us from anybody who's radical about anything. Just let it go and just block them and move on. Life's too short.
Life is too short. And I know Dave and I have had our own thing. We've also often chatted in private, haven't we, Dave, about, and sometimes we just need to bolster each other and go, I just feel so bad because of this, and Dave, and I'm like, doesn't matter. I reply to a lot of people now, not a lot at all, but I just say, wow, you're so angry. I hope your day gets better. And that then diffuses the whole thing. Sometimes I, when I'm a little bit bored, I just run a little incendiary device in there and walk away. But I must stop doing that.
Very often, people reply, and there's I've said this to a lot to people over the last sort of 4 or 5 months. Is just let the steam go out of the situation for a little while, and people will start to talk more sensibly in all areas. I'm not talking about any specific area in case anybody thinks I am. I'm just saying, just take time. Just take time. Let things. Don't react instantly. It's a bit like having an argument, isn't it? Like you can fall out with your wife over the most stupid things, and you end up, ramping up the argument that turns about where have you put the pepper pot? Why don't you ever put it back in the right place? And you end up screaming at each other. I hate you. I never wanted to know you in the first place. Whereas in actual fact, you just walked away when you started with the pepper pot. You'd have been, you wouldn't have escalated. Yeah. Or the other thing you could do, which is quite good fun, is actually say, now, that's not a de-escalator, that's an escalator, isn't it? You're identifying escalating arguments.
That's what the incendiary device is. And I think my wife is listening to this next door. But, they always say, don't
after all these years, she's still listening to you.
Don't go. Wait, I didn't say she was talking to me. They say don't go to bed on an argument. Stay up and fight. That's it. You got
morning.
It has been. You guys could all support each other in the murky waters of social media. I just think you just gotta understand that there are people are dealing with all kinds of other things, and you get a snapshot of somebody. So. You're attractive. How the hell did you manage that?
She was Miss Torbay. I'll embarrass her now. Yeah, she was Miss Torbay.
Wait.
I married her. She was 19 at the time. I was 14. No, I was 23. And it was.
Do you not have any opticians down there she could use?
I was even more handsome than that. I tell you what, the funny thing, and I write about this. I write about this in this book, which anyway, and it was basically I was the spottiest kid in the world. I was so spotty, and I went to the doctor, and they diagnosed. Well, I said, look, I didn't expect anything, but all my mates, I just joined the police, and of course, I was getting abuse from the little criminals, I should call them, not the nickname we call them, because Dave's here. And I was just frustrated because all my friends were going out, and people loved a copper with a warrant card, and they were bringing women into the singles quarters left, right, and centre. I can say this now. And I was getting nothing. I didn't even want it. And went to the doctors and went to the dermatologist, and within 2 months, I was absolutely fine. And there was this drug called Roaccutane that really dried everything up. And they've linked it to potential depression, suicides now, but it bloody cheered me up, no end, and fixed me almost overnight. And then I met Miss Torbay. Just saying.
Viagra did the rest.
Yeah.
well, you can send me some of your supplies later on, then, my friend, because.
So, you playing Snow Commanders tonight?
Yeah, she's still got her cabin crew uniform as well. So this is deteriorating. Big star now. But anyway, guys, it has been amazing, and thank you so much, Nick. And
thank you.
It's great to talk to you this side of the camera and side of things, if you see what I mean. And Dave, you've been amazing as well. And thank you for me before we just shut everything down, really. There's so many people saying it's been amazing.
Keep the faith.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers, everyone. See us next week.